Good morning and a wonderful day to you all, and thank you so much for joining us for this 50th anniversary celebration of World Environment Day. It is truly so wonderful to see so many of you here today from the United Nations family, friends, and of course, partners. And this is to commemorate this momentous event. As we all know, World Environment Day serves as a global platform to ignite positive change across the world so that we can do things together. And this year's theme happens to be hashtag beat plastic pollution. Can we do that together real quick? Hashtag. All right, I'm glad we're on the same page. And of course, this is about all of us together tackling and battling the grave issue, which is the plastic pollution crisis. In the next hour, we shall engage in an interactive discussion featuring esteemed panelists from the private sector, the local government, and UN entities. As we know, we need everyone everywhere to help beat plastic pollution and, of course, to bring solutions forth together. We also encourage everyone here today and those with us live online to get your questions ready because we will be opening up the floor for these wonderful insights, comments, and questions. We are also featuring a very much anticipated, guess what? World Environment Day quiz contest. So there are going to be some special prizes for you all, sustainable prizes, that is. And we hope that you will have fun participating and learning at the same time. Without further ado, it is my honor to invite Ms. Dechen Sering, UNEP Regional Director and Representative for Asia and the Pacific, to provide us with an overview of World Environment Day and share her wonderful welcome remarks.
Thank you, Antoinette. His Excellency Mr. Sahabzada Khan, Ambassador of Pakistan to Thailand, His Excellency Mr. Darki Ephraim, Ambassador of South Africa to Thailand, Ms. Geeta Sabharwal, United Nations Resident Coordinator for Thailand, distinguished delegates, colleagues, friends, good morning. I'm very pleased to welcome you to Advancing Solutions to Beat Plastic Pollution. This is a joint United Nations event, one that brings together representatives from many parts of society to commemorate World Environment Day. World Environment Day was celebrated about half a century ago. And it really is a day, many colleagues look at, June 5th was the day that UNEP was established. So it's a day that we use to commemorate with community the issues related to the environment, and we get civil society together. So there's a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and passion for people and the planet. This year, the global host for World Environment Day is the Côte d'Ivoire in partnership with the Netherlands, and we're very grateful for their leadership and support. If you remember to a few years back when we had World Environment Day and we looked at the theme of beating plastic pollution, and we really started with the government of India announcing phasing out single-use plastic, and that really started the process of working towards finding solutions to beat plastic pollution. We now have a process for an international legally binding instrument to beat plastic pollution. We are at the second Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee meeting taking place in Paris. So we're looking at pollution and waste as one of the three planetary crises we face. the crises of climate change, nature loss, and pollution. These crises are interlinked and reinforce each other. We're told that there are 19 to 23 million tons of plastic dumped into our aquatic ecosystem every year, and plastics generate over 3% of greenhouse gas emissions. And if we start to think about the Asia Pacific region, many of our rivers, I mean, we start to see the amount of plastic pollution that we find in our rivers. So while this is a crisis of global proportions, it's also a crisis for the Asia Pacific region. A UNEP report released earlier this month when they looked at a roadmap for cutting plastic pollution. And the report really said we could cut 80% of plastic pollution by 2040. But this means that we have to treat the causes of plastic pollution, not just the symptoms. We have to redesign products and packaging at every stage of the value chain. We have to reduce our dependence on plastic. And we have to understand what accelerating the shift would look like. For governments, we're looking at actioning policies to eliminate unnecessary packaging and limiting overpackaging. For businesses, we're looking at design and looking at eliminating waste and substituting unnecessary and plastic production and packaging. Non-governmental organizations and communities continue to play a very important role, and they encourage local representatives to push for laws that reduce plastic usage. And each of us can exercise the power of choice to avoid plastic packaging. The solutions exist. We need ambitions from all elements of society to supercharge them. Over the next hour, you will have an opportunity to learn, engage, and be inspired by many solutions. We have a group of panelists who have diverse perspectives, and we will test your knowledge on World Environment Day theme through a Beat Plastic Pollution quiz. So I'm happy now to present the official World Environment Day public service announcement. I hope you enjoyed the message and the session ahead. I thank you.
Plastic has been a solution. It has given us convenience, affordability, utility. However, the durability of plastic is both its benefit and its curse. Plastic pollution endures. It's suffocating our planet. We have seen solutions that work, rejecting single-use plastics, creating circular and sustainable alternatives, managing plastic waste more efficiently. Together, let's create systems to better reuse, reduce, and recycle. Let's push for an ambitious global agreement to end plastic pollution. Let's demand governments and businesses act, commit, and set new standards. Use your voice and your choice to beat plastic pollution. Let's do better.
Yes, and to echo that once again, let's all do better to hashtag beat plastic pollution this World Environment Day. And of course, not just this World Environment Day, but every day and always. And of course, we thank Dechen for that wonderful welcome message, inspiring, empowering, and of course, sharing the amazing journey to beat plastic pollution under the leadership of the United Nations and partners. I'm Antoinette Toss, United Nations Environment Program Goodwill Ambassador, honored and grateful to be your host and moderator for this wonderful session and celebration. And now, my friends and colleagues, it is time to welcome our esteemed panelists for an engaging and, once again, interactive dialogue. Our first speaker, Mr. Pornprom Wikiset, advisor to the governor of Bangkok. We are honored to have him with us today. He is a dedicated advocate for climate change with expertise in mitigation and adaptation. He actively promotes community resilience against plastic pollution and climate change in the Mekong River Basin. Through his work, he raises awareness among youth networks and local communities, fostering urgency and collective action. Let's put our hands together for Mr. Pornprom. Thank you so much. We are also honored to have with us today Dr. Wiashat Kitiratana Paibun, Chief Executive Officer of GRAX. Dr. Widashat is a visionary leader in sustainable food packaging, founder of Natural Plant Fiber Food Containers. His products replace foam and plastic in Thailand, utilizing 100% natural plant fibers. These functional and eco-friendly containers degrade in, guess what, just 45 days without harming trees or forests. With a multidisciplinary background and a master's degree in technology and management, he is a driving force in the eco-friendly packaging industry. Dr. Widashat Kitiratana Paibun. We are also honored to have with us today on our panel Ms. Sumi Rowe, Director of Administration, United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP. Ms. Rowe brings over 20 years of expertise in administration, logistical services, procurement, project management, innovation, and infrastructure support services. She has worked extensively in both the United Nations and private sector, specializing in supply chain management and fostering partnerships with the United Nations. Currently at ESCAP, she leads the organization's ongoing efforts to promote sustainability in facilities and operations, including the impactful hashtag, can we do this together? Hashtag Beat Plastic Pollution campaign. Yes, thank you so much. And once again, a reminder to everyone here live with us today and online that we are opening the floor for questions in just a bit. And please stay tuned for our World Environment Day quiz. Thank you so much for being with us today. It is such an honor to be moderating this panel. We are going to keep this very, very conversational and have a lovely discussion, a fun discussion and interactive, hopefully. And we are going to begin, of course, with Mr. Pomprom Vikitsrath. Thank you so much for being with us. And we know that this week we have been discussing wonderful solutions that cities can also bring forth and pathways forward. So our question for you, sir, is what policies or initiatives has the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration implemented to reduce plastic waste in the city, particularly, of course, in the areas of health, social issues, and education? And of course, what are some of the challenges that come with this as well, sir?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Ponprom. I'm the advisor to the governor of Bangkok for environmental affairs. The waste management, of course, is very a big issue in Bangkok, and we spend a lot of money on this. Actually, we spend around 10 billion baht on waste management the entire cycle, but per year, and we only spend around 3 billion or 4 billion on education. So you can see that we spend a lot more on waste management rather than education. So if we're able to reduce how much we spend on waste, we can earmark that money for education, which is way more important. So I think it's a very important issue that we're trying to do. Of course, we're trying to do many things, including the reduction of waste. Today, Bangkok has around 9,000 tons per day of waste. In order to reduce that, we have to support, separation of waste. We can build more incinerator. We can try to divert waste from landfills, etc. But it's not going to be as important as reduction of waste. So this is a main priority for the governor. We have so many initiatives that we're already doing. First, the governor has a campaign called Meterum, which is we understand the pain point of separating waste, that there are so many things that you ask of a citizen. You have to separate this waste, that waste, many things. And we understand that ordinary citizens, they have a lot of things that they're concerned about. Economic well-being, they have to get on with their lives and trying to get by in a very, tough economic period that we've just had. So we don't want separation of waste to be another burden on their life. So what we're trying to do is just make it easy, wet and dry. Go into household and ask them, just separate the food waste and the rest, which is dry waste. Why is this important to plastic? It's because a lot of the food waste, food in Thailand very moist, a lot of soup, a lot of curry. If you separate the food waste, the organic waste, the dry actually becomes very easy to treat. And then you can keep the dry for a couple of days. But once you mix it all together, you have to get rid of it day by day, causing, the trucks to have to come every day. But in the future, when we can separate, we can have organic waste trucks, separate trucks, come to your house every day. But for the dry waste, can come twice a week, like many countries that are already doing worldwide. So I think this is very important. And also, it helps the standard of living and the health of waste collectors as well. Because today, as you may know, there are still back of the truck separation done by the waste collectors, because there is economic value in the dry waste. So if the household separate since the beginning instead of mixing it together, the waste collectors don't have to separate. And then it will be easier on the job coming and to just collect it and go straight to recycling plants or whatever. So I think start with the easy things such as wet and dry is what we're trying to do.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vikitstedt. That actually is truly so amazing to hear how, of course, Bangkok is really making it easier for residents by providing the infrastructure and better systems, but at the same time, really looking at how this affects everyday lives, how easy it is for us to participate with small changes, being more responsible citizens. And these are actually basic things we used to do earlier in the century, the last century. And, things have changed, but it's wonderful to see how these organic practices can not just empower us with our health, with our environment, but as well as, of course, our waste champions. And moving, of course, into the private sector, we know that policies and systems have a big aspect in really controlling what can be done and what cannot be done. And for you, Dr. Wiederschadt, what was your ultimate inspiration for beginning this wonderful journey in innovation to reduce plastic pollution with GRACs? What were some of the challenges that you experienced, and of course, your why behind this wonderful journey?
Thank you so much. Thank you to have me in this seminar. Actually, as a medical doctor, I recognize that the severe health problem and then from the dangerous substance and toxic chemical from foam and plastic, that more and more that have in our health. The second, that we found that like doctor said, he said the growing amount of waste not only we find is into the waterway and ocean into very huge concern, and now even we say that we would like to reduce the plastic, but it's more, yeah, that's the way that I think that we see we talk about recycling for about almost 20 years, but only 9% of the garbage can recycle. Only 9% for 20 years. Yeah. So that's why we think that we cannot do only reduce or recycle. We have to replace it. Replace the plastic since the upstream. So that's why we produce the product that made from natural plant fiber. And if you throw it away, only 45 days is fertilized, and it's good for the plant. This kind of product is no laminating plastic. This the way that I think that from the first we think about what would like to substitute foam and plastic that can compostable, and we use the product from agriculture waste. That the agriculture waste in Thailand, 60% of product of if you grow up the plant, we use only 40%. Rice, we use only rice. We throw the rice straw. Yeah, something like this. So we use only 40%. The 60% is thrown away and we burn it. That produces a lot of PM 2.5. We use that product, the waste, and keep some innovate in that waste and produce this kind of product.
Circular economy.
Yeah. And without laminated plastic, so you can throw it away and 100% compostable. That's why we ask that not only reduce and recycle, but you have to replace it. If replace it, it's good for Bangkok also. And this kind of product, you can use both waste, wet waste and dry waste. You can throw it both because it's organic and like compostable in 45 days.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Wiederschadt. Not only is it fully biodegradable, but it actually is made from agricultural waste. Imagine that. So really placing circular economy still into the spectrum of what he does. And it's so nice to really think that you also represent what we say, that you don't have to be a scientist or anybody particularly in the environment to help the environment. You can just be who you are, and whatever strikes you, whatever affects you. For example, Dr. Wiederschadt, as a medical doctor, was impacted by the health implications of plastic pollution. And of course, moving on to the United Nations, it is a wonderful, huge system leading us forward to hashtag beat plastic pollution. And so we would like to ask Ms. Sumi Ro, how do relationships with UN vendors, of course, partners and vendors, help us to the journey in achieving beating plastic pollution and also the Sustainable Development Goals at that?
Thank you very much, and thank you for that question. I think it's really a wonderful opportunity that we can actually discuss this very important concept. And if you ask us about where the private sector partnership or the coordination comes in advancing the UN mandate, be it the SDG goals, I think it can actually outline into two important steps. One, the UN mandate cannot be implemented by us alone, right? Especially on an action like climate action or the plastic ban, or even advancing the SDG goals in totality. But that is because the private sectors and the business partners are our implementing partners. So when we talk about the single-use plastic ban, right? We may have an aspirations. UN actually facilitates intergovernmental forum or the country leaders to sign off on the principal matters. But when it comes to actual action, execution, the UN need the help of the government sectors to continue fostering that. But we need an implementing partner like the private sector to actually execute that. A real example. So before coming to ESCAP in 2021, I was actually working in UN headquarters in the supply chain management sector, doing the similar thing of this campaigning and all that. So in 2019, August, we actually managed in the UN headquarters and to get the understanding from all the 193 member states to really move forward with working with the business partner in our catering vendors and all our facilities vendors related on the banning on the single-use plastic. And that was actually timed just before calling the world leaders for a General Assembly session in New York headquarters in September. So we had a huge banner outside with the slogan that in the UN headquarters, the delegates, when you come, you will not see the single-use plastic. I was absolutely pleased when I came in 2021 in ESCAP. The UN ESCAP actually did it a year ahead of the UN headquarters in 2018 for banning the single use. And that wouldn't be able to be done or achievable without the strong collective support and the commitment from the country leaders and the government sectors, and also the partner who actually implement that. Because we also duly recognize that all of the greening the blue, which by the way, I didn't have the wonderful samples like the doctor, but I dressed for the occasion to greening the blue, right? So we can't do that without that resources and the capital investment that the private sectors actually put in. And I think we did it a little bit late, but we did it in the incremental steps to really, from the policymakers and the UN as the real incubator of the good practice, we should be actually leading the efforts to make the commitment that we recognize the efforts put in by the private sector in investing both the financial resources as well as the human resources, and it's a long journey. But I think, like as you mentioned, the circular economy, I mean, it's a real loop in the whole entire circle where we're saying, yes, there is some initial front-loading investment. However, if we look at it from the total cost of ownership, and even in the economic sense, because we reuse, because we actually recycle, because we repurpose and replace, in a total cost of ownership, there is an economic benefit as well out of this whole collective efforts. And I think that's where we are gaining the momentum, and we are actually gaining the support and the appreciation from the business sectors. So in that token, like I didn't have the samples, but if you go around our UN conference center later today, that also showcases our UN commitment to really show the single hashtag beat the plastic pollution. But also we do like I really concur with the Dr. Thad's example that it doesn't just stop short at the banning the single-use plastic. It is important impact into the waste management, waste segregation, which also the UN ESCAP showed the commitment. The team has done a great work in terms of starting that very challenging journey, but we are actually making that signal. And I think that's the second important aspect where we actually, encourage the private sectors and giving the right signal from the UN that we are in the serious business and we are in the recognition stage for that.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sumiro. And truly, a lot of people fail to remember that waste isn't waste until we waste it. And when we waste, that actually costs money. So we're losing in the process as well of the so-called conveniences. And also looking at how, of course, the government is allowing not just everyday citizens to participate, but for the United Nations to be able to lead in this journey, to be able to walk the talk, specifically even here at the Asia Pacific headquarters, which a lot of you might have seen and experienced. It was quite exciting for me to try the deposit systems here and everything else, so make sure to check all of that out. And we'd like to go back to Mr. Vikasreth in connection to with what Ms. Sumi has just mentioned. So what other policies or systems or strategies have you implemented to be able to collaborate with businesses, schools, and communities as well? Because we know that it's really different to communicate information, but to also drive that social behavior change from everyone as well.
We have many projects that we work with many of the segments. So I think the governor emphasized that every project you do, you have to involve the private sector, academia, civil society, and youth as well. So one example I want to give is we have a project called Magic Hand. So this we come with a pain point. First pain point is we have 9,000 street sweepers, right? You see every morning, and most of them are female. And they come out early in the morning, 4 a.m., 5 a.m., still quite dark, and they wear quite dark clothes. And they have the fluorescent vest, but it gets hot. So this actually leads to many accidents, cars driving and hitting them on the streets. So how does it relate? So we actually work with a private sector, and we, in all of our 50 district offices and including 2 city halls, we have a drop-off point for plastic bottles and many other sort of plastic. So people come and return the plastic bottles, and then we work with the private sector. We give them the bottles, and they turn it into clothing for the street sweepers with a bright yellow color. So, and then we return it back to the street sweepers to wear. Now we have 1,000 uniform already that are given to the street sweepers. And it actually works. And now we're trying to fix the uniform. Some say a little bit too tight, etc. So we're asking them a lot, how do you like it? But many of them, they really like it, and they post on Instagram, etc. That's a new fashion for them as well. But the most important thing is they're safe, because it becomes a very bright color when the cars are driving by. So I think this is one initiative that we're pretty proud of. Yes, and also we're talking a lot about segregation of waste and also recycling, but we have to push for the reduction and the reuse of plastic, of materials as well. So another thing that we're working with civil society and academia is to launch what we're going to call Refill Bangkok, which is currently in planning process, but we plan to do, which is to work with private sector in case they want to install water refill stations in their, let's say, shopping malls or restaurants, etc., where people can come and get water for free. Because today Bangkok, is a very hot place, and we did a survey, and they say they want to carry their own bottle, but there are no refill stations. That's why they have to buy the PET bottle. So now we're working to install more water refill stations. But also, if you already have your own refill station, we want to make like an ecosystem, like a platform that people can come and see where they are. Like BMA district office, we already have the refill station. So putting that on the map so people can see where they are. I think this is one initiative we're going to launch on the reduction side, because as I mentioned, we do a lot on separation, but reduction, some say we don't do it enough. So that's what we're trying to push for as well. Again, we don't have all the power on regulations and law, etc., but the action and initiative, what BMA can push for.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wikidstath, and thank you, of course, for the BMA's incredible work in bringing infrastructures and systems to the people so that we can participate. I am excited to try these new refill systems coming very soon. I carry my water bottle with me everywhere as well. And speaking, of course, once again, of collaborating always with the private sector and how valuable it is, we would like to ask one brief question from Dr. Wiederschaft about some of the challenges that you have experienced and maybe some of your hopes, since we are here today with some people that might be able to make some wonderful changes, some of your hopes that can make initiatives like yours more solid and, of course, more reachable and realistic.
Thank you so much. Players, we've watched for like more than 10 years, and we have collaborated with many part in the social, and we saw that the part that we do is the part that can influence social. Like we do with Chulalongkorn University, that we do a lot to research that what it should be do in Chulalongkorn that let the student use this kind of product to substitute foam and plastic. We found at first that we do the research, and we found that they say that this kind of products is good because of they can diminish the risk of cancer of their health, and helps the university to have very good things to fertilize and grow up the plant in the university. But the problem is the price. The problem is the price. So we help each other to try what is the good price that they can accept. Something like they say that if higher a little bit more than 20-30%, they can accept it. And but the problem is the one who pay for this part is not the student at first, but it's the vendor, it's the street vendor who pay for this. So we talk with Chulalongkorn that if the vendor in the university who sell this to the student, how they can do this with them, because the price is higher, little 20-30%. Actually, it's higher at that time, about 50%. But we decrease the price. We lower down the price for the university. And it's about 20-30%. But they still think it's more than plastic. So we talk with the university that have the policy that they give half of the rental price for 6 months to change for this, something like this. Yeah, for 6 months. Yeah, and everyone change for this. So that's the way that we do together. That's a collaboration that we lower down the price, they dole out the rent, and make all the people make a good things for the student and make a good thing for the university also. That's one thing that really good.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dr. Weirsch. Actually, that is truly amazing to hear, because as even mentioned earlier, it is important to get the perspective of the people that we are working with, our partners, which is everyone. So from earlier, being able to really speak and communicate with our waste champions on making sure that it is a just transition as well in our journey to beat plastic pollution. And of course, once again, finding better ways. As long as we collaborate and we try to figure it out together, it's possible. Thank you for that answer. And one final question from Ms. Sumiro before we go into our Q&A. So get those questions ready, everybody. So, Ms. Ro, we'd like to ask you, what are some of the top success stories that you've seen when it came to the management of sustainable procurement of the facilities and infrastructure of the United Nations? And maybe some tips for those out there or here with us today that are also looking for these kind of solutions. Where do you think they should begin?
Wow, where to begin? I think I can say in a positive way that we have begun, and I think we just had the 2 weeks ago. I think it was our commission session, 79th commission session, where all the intergovernmental and leaders in the Asia Pacific regions come and discuss the policy matters and challenges. And this year's theme was actually climate action. So we knew that for several years, and as I said in the beginning, that we can't really implement the UN and our collective commitment without the business sector. So we wanted to recognize the efforts taken by the business sectors in actually implementing some success stories. So we had for the first time that we actually included a side event and also the exhibits of the climate fair where the suppliers or the UN suppliers were bringing in the actual business solutions as a part of the exhibitions for what the sustainability at the UN compound. So that was one aspect that we recognized and we celebrated the success of the business solutions. The second one we had was a side event where we invited the private sectors who had this kind of success stories and also the challenges. I mean, the success doesn't come without the challenges. So to share their best practices and challenges and what they want to navigate in working with the UN to deliver these climatic solutions. And I think that's where, we really started doing these slow but important steps in recognizing the private sector's contribution and the success. And because we always send the campaign that at the end of the day, with the UN mandate, whether be it UN Secretariat or whether be UN UNEP or whether be it even the resident coordinator's office efforts with the country team, we at the end of the day, the public sees the UN work through the lens of the business partners. So it was important to really to recognize the successes and the challenges so that it gives us the lessons learned that what does a UN team have to reconsider. And in that token, that we can then work with our government stakeholders as to what are the barriers in either in the form of the policies or our business operations that actually can help maneuver. So I think it's an important aspect of these success stories. And the takeaway that I particularly had was it's a continuous journey. And I think it's an important aspect that, whether be it starting from the single-use plastic ban or beat the plastic pollution, or whether be it the grander talk of the sustainable procurement, there are always barriers. And we make the slow and steady but important and firm steps and the continuous cycle of both also recognizing the fellow panel members have been mentioning this student engagement and the youth. And I think that's a very important aspect that we have to start this campaign from young age, especially the high school students, where they start formulating their vision into their career path so that they can join us to work with the private sectors to partner, but also it is an important mandate for us as whether the collective, be it UN or the private sectors or the government sectors, that we owe them to really to leave the responsible action and giving them the planet Earth in the possible way of they can enjoy their next generation. I think that's the important message is a continuous cycle. And yes, it does cost more for some extent, but in the UN, there's a concept called best value for money in the procurement principles, where best value for money doesn't necessarily mean the lowest cost. It means that it's an important recognition that where there's an important technicality element, or if there's an important operation aspect that we need to spend more money to get the quality, that's an investment and that's the best value. So I think we will continue working with our stakeholders and public and our UN team as a whole to do this continuous journey that and an important journey together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Suni Ro. What a wonderful way to end this first round of our discussion. And now we are moving on into our Q&A. So this is the question and answer where we open the floor for your comments, insights, and questions, both here live in person and to those that are joining us online via the power of the World Wide Web. Miss Flavia, right over here, has a microphone for anyone that would like to begin with any question here today. Do we see any hands? Oh, thank you so much, sir. And he's also in green.
Yeah,
Blue green.
more or less. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation, very interesting. And I have a question regarding then the first speaker about the waste management. I appreciate your effort to have a separation of waste in wet, mostly organic, I think, and dry. I ask to you, what is the strategy for these two parts, organic and the dry part? Because to manage the organic part separated from the waste, I have a little bit of experience of this. It's quite a mess. It's a very challenge, but also the dry part to recycle could be also a mess. Because if you recycle plastic from the closed loop, the final product is almost good. But if you recycle plastic from separation, could be very dangerous because you introduce a lot of micropollutants, and micropollutants in the food chain is not very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Could we get your name real quick, sir, and what organization you represent?
Yes, Roberto Molteni from Italian Embassy.
Thank you so much, sir. And of course, this is for Mr. Wigetseth.
So I think first to encourage citizens to separate. I think we found out there's one pain point is the trust in the government by the citizens. People say when we go and talk to them and say, why should we separate the waste when you come and collect? You're just going to put it all together. So that's kind of like the discouragement. So that's what we're trying to do is on the communication side. Actually, something very interesting. TDRI or Thailand Development Research Institute, they did a study. They did 4 different communities, and they all have different tools that they use. First is just control group, do nothing. Second group is that they do lots of infrastructure, have separate, garbage collection trucks, etc. The third group is that they did some lottery. So if you separate your waste, it will give you a lottery, and at the end of the month, you could win gold or something. And the last one is education. And by education, they go and give information on what when you separate the wet waste, what is being done with it. It goes into compost that turns into, compost that could be used for planting trees. And also they give you information that, your recyclables now turn into clothing for the sweepers I mentioned about. And surprisingly and interestingly is that out of the 4 groups, they did baseline of how much they separate. And after a couple of months, the group that separate waste the most is the last group, which purely on communication. And they give this advice to us. So we're actually trying to do a lot on encouraging the people and saying, if you separate the wet waste, we have a system already. We have a separate collection trucks that will have many end routes. So we have a compost machine that will turn into compost already. We are merging with agriculture and animal feeders, and we also give them as well, because there are big demands for this as well. So giving some encouragement to them and some confidence in the system works a lot. And our compost machine, actually, it works now better because now we're getting pure organic waste rather than those mixed with a little bit of plastic bags, etc. And for the dry waste that you mentioned, or the plastics, we are also working with the private sector to try to develop MRF, or material recovery facility, so that all the waste are not, we don't want to, because now they're only like plastic bottles and those that are utilized, but the rest are not used or anything, and it goes into landfill. So with this facility, we can form into RDFs, residual derived fuels, etc., that can be sold to incinerators or others that need it, and the economic value will go up. So we're trying to address the full cycle, from building the confidence of citizens to separate, but also telling them that there is a way for everything. Everything can be circular, not even only the plastic, but also the food waste is also circular. Because once you make the compost, it can go into vegetable gardens, planting trees, and a lot of the compost is now dedicated to the governor's another policy, which is to plant 1 million trees in Bangkok, which we use the compost for. So we try to do the full cycle.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Mr. Ricketson. And honestly, I know we are talking about a critical issue, but it's also so inspiring and exciting to hear about all the different strategies and solutions that we are trying to figure out. As long as we never give up, you cannot fail. We just keep growing and getting better. So thank you so much for all the amazing initiatives of the BMA. I believe we have run out of time for our Q&A, and we would like to thank you so much for joining us once again today. And of course, once again, we would like to thank our esteemed panelists, from Mr. Rigetset from the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration, to Dr. Wiederschadt from GRAX, and of course, Ms. Sumi Rowe from UN ESCAP. Let's give them all a warm round of applause. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the exciting part of our session today. If you remember, we are going to have a World Environment Day quiz. And now I am happy to turn you over to our colleague, Ms. Flavia Reale, to facilitate this wonderful part.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, everyone. So get ready for our quiz. It's a tradition. Every year we have our World Environment Day quiz. So please take your phone, scan the QR code. If you are online, you may find the link in the chat already. And if you are watching on YouTube, just enjoy and test your knowledge. So if you're ready, I'll give you a few more seconds to just log in with the 3 options. Scan the QR code, click the link in the chat, or go to menti.com and include the code. I see still people with the phones in the hands, so I'll give you a few more seconds and then we can start. Let's see how much you know about plastic pollution. So if we are ready, let's start. Not yet? Not yet. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. Okay, sure. So then go to menti.com if the QR code doesn't work, and you can enter 95347933. I can repeat it. 95347933. I go once again. Ready? 95347933. But you may have also the link in the chat if you join the Microsoft Teams meeting. Ready? If you're ready. That's very weird. Yeah. What we can do? Yes, exactly. So menti.com, last time, the code is to be entered 95347933. Apologies if there's something wrong with the QR code, but I think we are ready. I see you all ready. Okay, let's start with the quiz. Andreas. First question, get ready. I see a lot of people online. That's awesome. Remember, answer fast to get more points. What percentage of plastic waste is recycled globally? Is it 9%, 28%, or 70% of plastic waste that gets recycled globally, worldwide? Let's see who knows it. Last 4 seconds. 9, 28, or 70%. Well, most of you got it right. It's indeed 9%. It's not much, just 9%. And the reason being that sometimes the volumes are too big to be processed, or that type of plastic doesn't have, there's no capacity locally to recycle it. So the best way, it's preventing its use. Let's move to the second one. Yep. Well, you may know it. So we press enter to the quiz and we get ready for the second one. And I'm sure most of you will know the result, but if all plastic was all biodegradable, would it fix the plastic crisis? True or false? If plastic was all biodegradable, would it fix this crisis, our plastic crisis? True or false? Most of you will know. I know. I knew you would get it right? Indeed, it is false. And the reason is that some of the biodegradable plastics cannot even biodegrade under 50 degrees. So they need a dedicated plant. And also watch out, because many of the biodegradable plastics are not made of 100% biological components, which means they may disappear in nature, but then leave all the chemicals and leak them maybe into our oceans and rivers. So please watch out when you get biodegradable plastics. Let's move to the next one. Okay, answer fast to get more points. What percentage of plastic is produced for packaging worldwide? Is it 24%, 36%, or 60% of plastics that goes for packaging? Ready? Last 5 seconds. 24, 36, or 60%? It is, yeah, most of you thought the highest number, right? No, 36%. And you need to know it's a big share of the worldwide production of plastics that goes for packaging, but also other sectors also use plastics significantly, such as to produce fishing gear, for example, and other parts like the agricultural sector. So we need really to collectively work across all sectors to reduce the plastic use. Let's move to the next one. We're going towards the end of our quiz. Last 3 questions. Answer fast to get more points as usual. Be fast. And in 2018, ESCAP, this compound, banned the use of single-use catering items. Now, how large was the reduction in single-use items every year thanks to this ban? Was it 4 tons of waste prevented, 9 tons, or 17 tons of waste made of single-use catering items prevented every year? You got it right. Well done. It means the message came through. It's 9 tons every year that are prevented thanks to the single-use ban and your contribution as UN occupants in this compound. So we are now ready to go to the next question. Get ready. Asian rivers account for what percentage of river transported plastic in our oceans? Is it 37%, 54%, or 86% of the river transported plastic that comes from our rivers in our region, Asia and the Pacific? That's a difficult one. Be fast, but also get it right. 86%. It's scary, isn't it? We were scared too when we saw these figures, and that's why we really need to be careful at source. Why do we use plastics in the first place? How do we dispose of it to make sure it doesn't fly into or gets thrown into our rivers and water flows? Let's get ready for the last question. Again, as fast as you can, but get it right too. In 2022, what percentage of the waste in this compound was actually plastic waste? Was it 1%, 9%, or 24% of our waste that was plastic waste? Eight more seconds. You seem relaxed. Do you know it? So the right answer is actually less than 1%. The reason being that we banned single-use plastics back in 2018 and that we have waste management policies in place to keep it as little as we can. And whatever we have as plastic waste, we recycle it. We found solutions also for some types of plastics that are difficult to recycle. So really with the collaboration with the private sector, we can achieve a lot. Thank you, everyone. Let's go to the leaderboard and see who's the winner. The top 10 winners will get a reusable water bottle, of course, kindly sponsored by UNEP. So, so Thomas is certainly among the top ones. But remember, we'll take a snapshot of this. And at the end of this meeting, you will get your reusable bottle. Come to us and tell us what was your nickname. Thank you, everyone. If you are online and you are among the top 10, just send us an email and we'll arrange with you your pickup of the bottle. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Over to Antoinette.
Thank you so much, Miss Flavia Reale, for facilitating such a wonderful World Environment Day quiz contest. And of course, thank you to all of you here today for your incredible participation, for making it extra fun and interesting. We wish everyone could be winners, but you still are a winner today because after this session, there is a lovely sustainable menu prepared for everyone here. And of course, so that we can enjoy a delicious meal, but at the same time, without harming the environment. And as we draw to the conclusion of this wonderful event, I would like to invite Ms. Geeta Sabarwal, United Nations Resident Coordinator in Thailand, to deliver her closing remarks. Geeta, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I'm not going to keep you waiting for the sustainable food that is available. I'm looking forward to that as well. So, excellencies, friends, let me thank all the speakers and participants for joining us today, for making the World Environment Day fun and a success. Your contribution demonstrates how we leverage a whole of society approach to beat plastic pollution, right? This event also shows that how each of us contributes to plastic waste and how all of us have a part to play in being responsible consumers, as Dechen, you had pointed out. Thailand's per capita consumption of plastic is amongst the highest in the world, stands at 15.5 kgs per person per day, per person annually. The country is also one of Asia's biggest producers of plastic resin and products, with only a fifth being cycled, unlike globally. Globally, the figure was 9%, right? So in Thailand, it's about a fifth. It's roughly about 19 to 20%. Responsible production will result in securing additional $4 billion of economic value in this country, as Kun Prompom, you had pointed out. So the value is $4 billion for Thailand if we just recycle the waste that we are generating. So both industry and individuals need to work together to beat up plastic footprint and scale up recycling and replacing. Last week, I met with a representative of the International Atomic Energy Agency who told me that they are in the fourth stage, industrial stage of piloting, using nuclear technology to convert plastics into construction material, which means that all our pillars in buildings could be made out of plastic. If this happens, this could be a game changer in many ways. And it's these contributions, these big science-led contributions, together with individual contributions from each of us, that I believe is going to make a difference in the years to come. So thank you all for joining, and it's been a great pleasure. I want to end by saying, Dechen, UNEP has a leadership role to play in this, especially since the legally binding international agreement is currently being discussed globally. So your leadership, together with that of other UN agencies, will be critical as we take this whole process of beating plastic pollution forward. Thank you very much, and Khap Kun Kha.
Thank you once again, Ms. Geeta Sabarwal, United Nations Resident Coordinator in Thailand. Once again, Your Excellencies, to our esteemed panel, to all of our guests, and of course, everyone here today and online, we thank you all for joining us for this 50th anniversary celebration of World Environment Day. And a kind reminder again to all of us, as has been mentioned many times during this session, from governments and businesses to people like you and me, we need everyone, everywhere in the fight to hashtag. Thank you very much. Happy World Environment Day and have a wonderful week ahead.